All right, what's going on, everyone? Supreme Comment here. So we are going to be going over on the other side of the spectrum, the melee category or the melee side of it. So we went over the Destiny and then Destiny Impulse and then the Series yesterday. So this time around, we're going to talk about the revive for the Gundam Double Sky and then the Crossbone X1 Pro class over here. So are these two units something you really need to summon on? I would say no because I would say they have aged it pretty bad overall. They came out back in early, if I remember. Let me see. They came out early February, like around February 2nd ish, around that week, right? So, on their initial release, I would say the Double Sky was probably it's a pretty decent melee attack unit just because the overall stat was pretty good at that time. In terms of like the head stat, I believe it was one of the one of the better one if I recall from my initial review back then. But how have they aged so far? Not too good, just because this Gundam Double Sky has one of the not the best trait, not the best tag you will want to see in a melee build. Let's just quickly kind of just plow to it. I'm not gonna go like a really like a full dive in because I did review it back then. So this just gonna be like a revisit of it. So just so you know, give my thoughts on how bad in a way they have aged over here. So let's do quickly take a look at the head over here. In terms of the head over here, like look at this. You got Protag and Gundam type over here. So obviously this is not the worst case scenario. I believe the what is it? The straight turn red also has Gundam type as one of the trait. That one is better than this one just because it has better stats. So alone this better stat alone can kind of like cover its ground a little bit more than this one over here. In terms of the portrait over here is like so first portrait you have to be buffed it before you can gain that EX skill power boost by 30%. So obviously that is good, but keep in mind you have to be buffed it. So in any situation where you're not buffed it, this E skill is gonna it is completely useless, right? Instead of second portrait, you do have some piercing. It is piercing can be good in some situation, but not all of them. I mean, for all of them, yes, but it just really depends on the event you're really taking on. I don't, in most cases, I don't think piercing is something that is like of a niche, I would say. So probably just because of this, like this is a pretty bad portrait overall, like both these over here. So let's move right on to the chest. Wait, let me see. How are the other compartments like in terms of the stat? So overall, it is look at how bad this head had gone over. Like, it was used to be one of the better better stat in the game, but now it's just like mediocre. It's just like, huh? It's not even. It hasn't even been that long, but it's just overall bad. Like, why? But in terms of the chest over here, I think one noticeable part you want to look at is probably gonna be the high armor and then the high defense over here. So in those situational arena mode where you have to be using either armor, like we have so far seen arena defense, like both defense and both resistance over here. So do keep an eye out on those part where they can excel in those department over there. I would say the armor and the melee defense are pretty good overall. Like it does exceed what we normally see. But obviously for like a melee unit, you do want high melee defense over here, which we got that. But in terms of like the melee stat over here, like the raw stat, is on the lower tier. Like nowadays, what you would see is probably within like the mid 3,000 range, maybe like 3,500. I think that's a pretty average range, and then you top that with some good defense like this one over here. Just because like that base attack is so low, even if you do change gear from that 5,700, that 30% add onto that melee attack is not gonna give you like anything you will like over here. So just because of this, is just probably not too beneficial. Bad second part, word tag already, or word tag, yeah. Gundam type again, which you don't really want to see. In terms of the portrait over here, is actually a double. This one is actually pretty good. But the second portrait, you had to have one enemy shoot down. So in any event, you want to clear any stage where there's only one enemy, you can just like yeah, this is not gonna be good, right? So that's a stat over there. Obviously, double melee attack is actually good. So like this one is good for like longer event, like multi enemy stage. But other than that, single stages like those single boss multi mission, yeah, you are out of luck on this one. But if do you want to alterate it in this one, is that probably not. We have gone. I will. I I am confident to say we have gotten a lot more better choices within this 4 months already. So if you do pull the chest, probably not something you really need to focus on, I would say. Moving on to the arm over here, we got the lash position over here. Did I actually? I did actually showcase the E skill of this one already, but I have I have completely forgot about it already. As for any of these E skill over here, this original pre-alteration, it is already at B plus power already. I think personally B plus power should be sufficient already. Because these are obviously gonna be hard to get up to that level 10 anyway. So I feel like probably investing in these is not gonna be the best case scenario. I feel like investing in those maybe those standard 4 star with alteration. I think those are a better option because they are one easy to level 10 if you do happen to pull this part, and B, they're just a lot more accessible, right? So this one is actually pretty good, should be. This one also does. Oh, actually, where's your melee defense? I don't really see melee defense as something you need to raise up. I would say maybe like a melee attack that would have made this part a lot more better. But other than that, I would say the overall set is on the mediocre side as well. This one to keep in mind is the EX skill arm, and then with pairing up with some low stat over here, this is a don't all trait over here. So portrait over here is high mobility and pro tag over here. So a pretty standard trait or tags for your melee build over here. I would say high mobility has kind of fallen off a little bit. I don't know if any of you guys just are still running it. I'm pretty sure they are, but that's just my opinion. I don't run it. Maybe you guys do. So that's that over here. Moving on to the leg over here. The leg is literally the gunplay kicking a soccer ball. That's that's what it is. This one is a diving shot over here. Kick an energy blast like you're shooting a soccer goal. Yeah. So this one can be good. Let's actually take a look. Did I alter this one already? I did not. So we can just actually see what we're looking at. Okay, so this one, if you want to bring out the full latent potential of the E skill, you're gonna have to alterate it because the power is not gonna cut it. But with the overall stat of this, I don't even think you really need to alterate it. This part in general is just a no go. Don't alterate it. So speaking of the backpack is probably one of the best part out of this kit over here. And it's something, for example, if you don't want to pull it, I personally feel like you don't really need to pull on the double sky. If you purely want to get the backpack, I feel like you can just maybe at some point pick it up from the on those banner that gives you ticket where you can pick up one of these copy over here. I know at that point in time you won't be able to access the limited time alteration, but I feel like even pre-alteration, you should be doing decent. You should be doing decently well already, because you're not really going up too much in power wise. I believe you're just going up from. Let me actually check from the actual summoning page, just to be sure. Let's see over here. So the backpack. Let's see. In terms of the backpack, yeah, B plus power I would say is sufficient enough. You do gain all these effects already, so you're not really losing on too much. You're gonna get health. You're gonna give melee attack to your squad. So there's really nothing else you can really ask more for this guy over here. So an altered version will just do as fine in terms of damage output. Maybe in terms of damage, it's gonna suffer slightly, but I feel like you don't really want to summon on something that is not overall gonna benefit you throughout. Not really bashing too much on it, but I feel like we have gone through a lot of better parts over here already. So going back to these parts, it just makes it feel like they're not good. You know what I mean? So I feel like the only really good thing out of this kit is probably gonna be the backpack. Let's actually take a look at the beam rifle over here, the beam saber. In terms of the beam saber over here, it's actually not bad. Actually, like back in initial release over here, it's actually pretty good. So this one I would say is just a smidge lower than the Kamara's Vidar. That one actually gives a higher attack and also gives a higher defense over here. So that is that. In terms of the portrait over here, I would say it is a little bit disappointing over here. After 10 seconds has passed, reduce cooldown by 50% at once. So which means they want you to, at some times I mean, you don't really have to use your EX skill right out the bat with the first second, within the first 10 seconds. I would say if you do that, if you do it in that manner, you will be able to, kind of use that EX skill a lot more faster. But this trait over here, it's just more of like if you don't have like, for example, if you don't have enough good initial cooldown. So for example, like your custom EX skill, within like timer count 4 minutes and 55 seconds, you will be probably halfway through. So you're fairly soon to be able to use that EX skill. I would say this is how it works in a way, in different scenario. But I like how I usually look at this is, oh my gosh, I have to use my EX skill within the first 10 seconds so I can kind of get another, so I can kind of benefit from it. But other than that, I would say not the best one, not the best melee weapon to be getting nowadays. Second portrait is no problem, obviously pretty good, but it is going to be locked behind a P attribute, which is probably not the most ideal things you want to do for this part over here. All right, moving on to the beam rifle over here. The beam rifle in some extent is pretty good. For example, if you are, for example, this week we are actually doing a melee defense mode, and this one coming in almost at 3k for melee defense is gonna be everyone's. Anyone who has this in the arsenal is for sure gonna be using this. In terms of the portrait over here, the portrait is actually pretty stupid over here. They want you to use Gundam type, which Gundam type is not actually a tag you want to be using for melee build anyway. So I don't know why they would do this. This one is actually a double E skill buffing, so in theory, for example, you can be running this on a shot build as well, but that shot attack is actually pretty ridiculously low, so I don't think you want to be using this in the shot builds anyway. So that is pretty much it for the double sky. So up next we will be moving on to the crossbow and see how has that one aged. Alright, so quickly talking about the crossbow X1 over here. I feel like the Crossbone X1 was built differently. It's literally built differently because I actually did 2 stack comparison over here. So on the top, it's gonna be with the traditional 30% change gear, and then the one below is actually gonna be the total resistant gear. So it's gonna give you a 25% of your beam resistance combined, beam and physical resistance combined. As you guys can see, the one below is actually has a higher stat throughout, because if we actually took a look at the parts for the Crossbow X1 over here, I would say I don't know why they built this like this. So the Crossbow X1 is more of like a honest side or actually evenly distributed over here. So if you guys see the defenses and the resistance over here, they're literally around the same area over here. But if you are gonna combine both resistance together, it is gonna give a higher overall, compared to you just want to compare like, oh, strictly defense or strictly shot attack over here. So the Crossbow X1, I would say it didn't age that well as the same as the double sky, mainly due to the fact that the overall stat is extremely low. Even if you do, for example, use the 25% what is it, the resistant gear, I do not even see any parts that excel, right? In terms of first portrait, I would say it is a double limited over here. So first of all, you have to be using a saber category weapon over here, which is not the worst case scenario. I feel like a lot of parts, can be using saber, and that it'll be fine. But the second problem is the second portrait is only dedicating to the orb over here, which is something I don't really like. And keep in mind, this is actually a double EX skill buffing over here. So again, in theory, you can put this on your shop build as well, but you will not actually do that just because of the overall stat is extremely low for a shot attack over here. So that is not something we will be doing over here. So in terms of the chest over here, like if you take a look at the overall stat of the chest, everything is evenly distributed. So on the top, both melee and shot is actually coming at flat 4,000. And then for the one below is actually just a little bit higher, but I would say just like, why? How come the stat was so low on these guys over here? Like I don't really get it. You can say full clubs is more of like a all-rounder in a way. Maybe you can say that. Just judging by the fact that all these stats are actually pretty decently distributed over here. So not a bad portrait for the chest actually. I think even if you have it as a subslot, I think it'll make it better. It will make a difference, just because the portrait is actually pretty good overall. But you will be having to use a rifle category. So if that's something that kind of like collide with any other portrait you guys are using, maybe this one is not the best case scenario. In terms of the second portrait, melee damage raised by 10% and the EXQ power boosted by 35%. So it's a pretty solid portrait over here. But if you cannot obligate to using a beam rifle category equipped, so this one is probably not going to be the best case scenario for you. Overall, it's actually pretty good in terms of the attacks as well, close combat and high firepower. So not bad overall. Alright, so this one is probably something that everyone would like to get. It's gonna be the skill heart impact over here. Actually pretty good. So this one, I would say most people actually do want a squad heal over here, but unfortunately you are not gonna get that over here. But instead you are gonna get a whopping 29% up to your beam resistance to your overall squad, 10% defense as well. Because of that, I feel they want to give this guy as much defense as possible. So not really surprised they went for this kind of moveset over here. Not bad animation overall. I do kind of like it. But the overall side is just kind of just not good. You want to alterate it purely for the EXQ. I mean, yeah, go right ahead. I think it's pretty good, but I think missing out on that health recovery, I think will be a pretty discounted for everyone over here. In terms of the leg over here, I would say this EXQ is something you don't really need to focus on because of the look at the first time usage. Like, excuse me, the first time usage is 40 seconds. Like, my gosh. If you take a look at level 1, which most people have, this one is the same as the God Gundam arm, the Sekia Tenkuyu. That one actually just come in a 60-second already. I don't know if these ones do immensely more damage. I'm not too sure about that. For what I never actually tested out. Maybe I will just to see what kind of output we can be expecting from this. But yeah, a 60-second on the first initial, that's too much. So this one is probably not a good alteration because you're gonna have to pack. I don't even know how many initial cooldown boosts you need. Overall, it's not gonna be anything good over here. So this is something you can skip out for alteration. Not good at all. All right, moving on to the backpack over here. I personally do kind of like the backpack in a way. But as I read a little bit more, it say when one enemy is shot down, buff EXQ effect up by 22%, and then when armor is when HP is 80% or less, then you gain a melee boost. Like, okay, man, this is gonna be a double negative if you, for example, take on one enemy only. You're not ever gonna get that buff over here, or when your health is always gonna be below that. So when your health is always full, you're not gonna get that as well. So this is a pretty bad portrait for the backpack over here. I feel like they could have done a little bit more on it, but overall this is not going to be good for alteration as well. So moving on to the Memusa Buster over here, the storm version of it. So the Memusa Buster Blaster maximum output, I'm not sure what's going to output on this one over here. It does do like a twirly spin up in the air, and then it's going to hit your enemy. But overall, I don't think it's anything too sufficient where you need to alterate it. I do feel like coming in at a B plus power should be fairly sufficient already. I actually do have 2 copies over here, B plus over here. So this is not your traditional one that's coming into only A minus over here. So maybe if you do have the resource and you do like this EXQ, other than that, I feel like you don't really need to alterate it. Alright, so let's take a look at the rifle over here. In terms of the rifle, let's see. So when Saber category is equipped, initial EXQ charge boost by 20%. So those are always going to be good. As for the second portrait, you are going to be locked behind the high firepower. So if you are not able to fulfill these 2 categories for any chance and means, this is a hot skill for you all already. All right, moving on to the last one over here. This is going to be the Peacock Smasher over here. So this one is actually pretty good. People are able to one-shot a full bar enemy. I'm talking about the Big Zam. Like, people are able to one-shot it with using one single EXQ just like this over here. So I never actually alterated and tested out, so I don't know what's the overall impact of it, but I have seen people do great things with this, so maybe this is a good part to alterate. I will leave that to yourself. Just think about whether or not to alterate this one. But overall, I would say the Crossbone, there's a lot of part you don't really need to alterate. Just because of the low stat, the portrait is not exceptionally too well. So with that being said, I feel like with this review over here for these 2 revive, I feel like you don't really need to summon on it. I feel like they has not aged that well compared to any of the other suits. So with that being said, this is just quick rerun for what we have for these two guys over here. And that being said, I will catch you guys all on the next one.